Hey everybody, welcome to
Powered by
another edition
Riverside
of Talks
FM.
Tamiya. I'm Craig from the OAG and I am here with my good friend Phil from Poor Boys RC. Phil, how are you doing today?
Hello, everybody. Hello, Craig. I am doing great, my man. Thanks for having me again. How are you doing?
I'm doing very well. It's the summer, the sun is shining, there's plenty of opportunities to get out with our RC cars. It is the best time of the year as far as I'm concerned.
Absolutely.
And there's something happening, isn't there, next month? There's a speed run event that I seem to keep hearing about,
Some sort of speed running event.
Yeah,
People
there's a
taking
lot of
slow cars.
chatter, a lot of chatter going on at the moment about this
A little
speed
bit of
run.
chatter going on right now, isn't
Yeah,
there?
maybe we'll dedicate a bit of time later in the proceedings to that. What do you reckon?
Yeah, I think that might be a good idea. We'll touch base on it, hey?
Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. So I thought we'd get started by talking through the new releases from our friends at Tamiya. There's not as much going on this summer. I can really sense that certainly the Tamiya new releases are they're starting to pitter out a little bit. We know about everything that's coming, so it's getting a little quiet. So for the month of July, we have got some carbon damper stays coming for the XM01, which I have that to build. I love a carbon damper stay. I can't help myself. So I have a high probability that I'll be picking those up at some point in the next month. But the other one that's on there is the Honda City Turbo, the WR02C chassis. I am not picking one of those up. What about you, Phil?
You're not picking one up. Really?
I'm not.
I'm
I'm
shocked
not.
to hear that.
Well, I was going to. I was very much going to. I had a pre-order in for one, and I decided that I'm going to save my cash because I want to see what Tamiya is bringing out later in the year, and I think there's going to be some tasty stuff coming later in the year. And I also heard that there's going to be a second production run later this year or early next year of the Honda City Turbo. So I don't feel as rushed to pick it up in July as I would have been if I hadn't known that news.
Okay, I got you. That makes sense.
Are
Yeah.
you getting one?
No, I'm not. Well, I am gonna get one, but I'm just gonna get it, and we're gonna do the classic Poor Boys. Get Mrs. Poor Boys RC to put one of her classic paint jobs on it and
Nice.
raffle it off. I think it's a good vehicle for that. It's not, that particular kit, that particular body. It just doesn't really speak to me of some of these original Tamiyas that there's so many of them. As soon as they announce them, it's like I need to have that one. The City Turbo just has never really been that car to me. So it's not something that I want to have in my own collection, but I know it's something that a lot of people out there that are listening to this podcast and watch our YouTube channels would really enjoy. So I think it's a good opportunity to buy one. I've already got one on pre-order through BC Hobbies, and as soon as it comes in, we'll get Mrs. Poor Boys RC to put a nice paint job on it, maybe a couple tasty mods, and then we'll raffle it off.
Nice, man. I'll be looking out for that one. Now, I didn't think it'd be much of a driver. So I thought if I buy one, it's probably going to be something that's going to end up sitting on the shelf a fair bit. Um, I don't really have anywhere to run it. So that's always my buying decision with these things. You can only have so many. And I like to have cars and buggies that I know I'm going to drive. And I just couldn't see a use case for that for me.
Yeah, that makes sense. And I've never driven one before. I mean, it's on the what is it, the WRO2C chassis,
Hmm.
which is the same as the Wild Willies that they re-released, right?
Yes, that's right.
And my wife has a Wild Willie, and I'll tell you, I mean, it's a ton of fun to drive that thing. But that's also a big wheel variant.
Yeah.
You're going to the City Turbo, which is it's got smaller wheels and tires. I'm sure it would still wheelie because it's such a small wheelbase and still be a fun car to drive. But like you, I'm just not too sure. Like, I just don't know what I'm going to do with the thing. So it just doesn't really seem to fit my needs. And it looks cool. It's really neat. But again, it's not like a Canadian spec car that you'd ever really see out here. So I didn't grow up ever watching those cars and thinking, wow, I want to get one day, in a model version. So, yeah.
Definitely one for the completists, I think. If you've got that sort of complete Tamiya collection and you're missing this one, it's a good release for those guys who are, got to catch them all.
Absolutely. Good friends
So
got to catch them all. Yeah.
so it's a fairly limited run in July. And looking forward from there, I think August is going to be fairly quiet as well. We've got the Mini Cooper racing next month, sorry, in August. There's also some non-scratch long nose pliers from Tamiya coming, which apparently is a new design or a new version of those long nose pliers. Now I don't have any long nose pliers, So I might well pick those up when they land in August, depending on the price of them, of course, because Tamiya tools can be quite expensive, can't they?
Yeah, they can.
And then there's also going into September, there's going to be a couple of pre-painted bodies. They've got a 911 GT3R black pre-painted. They've got the Peugeot 306 Maxi blue pre-painted. I might pick that Maxi up a pre-painted blue because I quite like that colour. Just saved me painting it during the winter, so that might be pretty good. But what was announced that I was disappointed wasn't coming out in time before the speed run was the Grasshopper Black Edition, and that's going to be coming later this year. Did you see that? It's a re-release.
I did see that, yeah, and you know what? It's the first time that I've seen that re-release. Apparently, it's been re-released before, and I
Mm.
wasn't aware of that. And so the first time I saw it, um, this time that they're talking about this release was to me the first time I'd ever seen that version. Man, that looks cool! Like the
It,
neon wheels and like it's absolutely beautiful. I love it.
it's a really nice color scheme, isn't it? I really like it too. And again, I look at these things, go, oh, am I going to drive it? Will it sit on the shelf? And that's where I'd stop and go, it's probably not for me because I've already got a Grasshopper and I've been encouraged to get another one. So I probably don't need a third Grasshopper, unfortunately. But I do like the color scheme on it. I think it looks really, really nice. And if I, happen to be in the market for an RC later in the winter and that one's, some Tamiya coins burning a hole in my pocket, I might well pick that one up just because it looks so good.
Yeah, I'm in the exact same boat. I'm on my third Grasshopper now. Well, second Hornet. We've got one Grasshopper and two Hornets now. One's going to be dedicated to the speedrun challenge, but it's like I just don't need any more of these chassis in the collection. There's not enough room in here anyway, so I don't know if I'll
Exactly.
get it, but we'll see. We'll see.
It's certainly nice. It's certainly nice. The other thing, Phil, that I picked up on when I was reading through some of the news blogs and the various press releases coming out of Tamiya is that they're increasing the retail price on the XR311 here in the UK by about £30 from the 1st of July. So that's the 58004 XR311.
Did
And
they give
I
any
think,
reason for that?
well, I can only guess that it's because of increased production costs, increased shipping costs, increased duties, that sort of stuff. It seems to be very much. I mean, that statement was from a UK wholesaler, and the retailers have communicated that through as well. So it looks like that's happening there. That's quite an expensive kit. I wonder whether we're going to see this creeping into some of the other Tamiya kits. Kyosho did it a couple of years back. The price of their legendary series in the UK just jumped up by about £30 for each model, and it
That's
just
crazy.
just
And I see
happened.
some of the
And it,
prices that you guys pay in the UK. It just seems absolutely nuts. Like when I'm making my videos, I try to make sure I've got pricing in that's relevant to the markets where people would be interested in the, whatever the vehicle or product is that we're talking about on that episode. And it seems like it's almost every time if I do a comparison from like US dollars to Canadian to UK pound sterling, it's like the UK is always paying more for the same products that we're getting in North America.
it 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 does happen. I mean, we have 20% sales tax here. The VAT is 20%.
Wow,
So that
20%.
adds a
Yeah.
massive chunk on. If you're thinking the landed cost has that 20% added to it, it does make things a little more expensive at the storefront.
Yeah, I guess so. Hey, yeah, I think we're 13 here in British Columbia, and I guess the states would vary depending on the state that you're
Yeah.
in. But wow, 20%, that's pretty hefty.
Yeah,
Great.
absolutely, and then
Wow.
you find another £30. It pushes the price of the hobby up, but then everything's relative. These prices have to go up because other prices go up, and everyone's got to make a living out of the transaction. So I was just surprised when I saw some of the prices in Japan that people were posting up they could buy their grasshoppers at. When they were picking up their Hornets and their Grasshoppers for the speedrun challenge, I was blown away by how cheap some of the models are in Japan. It is unbelievable.
I've heard that. Yeah, I've heard Japan and I think in the Philippines as well. They've got a factory in the Philippines and you can get them really cheap down there as well. What was the Mazda 787B, that Group C car that was a limited run for Japan.
Yes.
I've seen those popping up on eBay now, and they're asking $500 for them, and I think the local price was about 250 or something. So, uh, just crazy, yeah, how
That
cheap
is
they get them in
crazy.
Japan.
That is crazy. Maybe one day, Phil, we do a poor boys trip to Japan,
There
and
we
we'll
go.
all meet up and go and fill our boots. What do you reckon?
That would be pretty amazing. We'll go. Yeah, once Poor Boys is Rich Boys RC and we're making some money, that would be the first stop. We're gonna go right to Japan, and yeah, we're gonna stock up on some Tamiyas and ship them right home.
I'll let you know when my numbers come up, buddy. I'll let you know. All right.
Yeah, that's it.
So that's it from the new releases this month. That's quite short. That's the shortest new releases that we've had since we started doing the podcast,
Mhm.
and I think
Yeah.
it's just a sign of where we are at the minute. We're in that sort of summer lull. We're waiting for some of the trade shows to kick off again later in the fall. So, I look forward to see what Tamiya's coming out. Like I said to you earlier on, I am holding out. There's going to be some big releases coming, 40 years coming up and 50 years and all that sort of stuff. I think there's going to be some big announcements later in the year. So watch this space.
I hope so.
So let's pick up then, sticking with the Tamiya theme. I did say last month it's your turn to pick the hero Tamiya. So what is your hero Tamiya icon for this month,
Oh
Phil?
boy, there's so many to pick from, but this month, Craig, I wanted to go with another monster truck
Oh,
classic, the Clodbuster.
oh, yes.
Yeah, the
Yes.
Clodbuster. I mean, this is one of these really iconic to me is that you know what? I mean, it's almost 40 years old itself now, isn't it? I think it was released in
Mm.
88, I want to say 89, something like that. And maybe 87 and 87, I think actually. And yeah, to think that guy's almost 40 years old and they're still as relevant today as they are is pretty phenomenal. And I'm not talking just like a stock clodbuster. I mean, you get right into monster truck racing now where you've got companies like Crawford Performance Engineering that make all these high-end components for them, cool chassis, extended four-link bars, great suspension setups, servo on axle setups, all these amazing mods you can do. It's just one of these trucks that you can do so much with. I've got two of them. I've got a mod Clod that's completely maxed out with modifications, and just another standard one that I just put some 20 turn motors in. Other than that, it's completely stock. Um, each model is so much fun in its own way. There's something about just the wacky suspension of a Clodbuster in stock format. They're just pogo sticks, really, and it's non-dampened and it bounces and it does wacky things. Um, and it's just overpowered with the huge tires. It's an icon and it's relevant 40 years, almost 40 years after its release. So I think it earned the hero of the month club.
It absolutely does. Now, but I'm ashamed to say, Phil, I have never owned a Clodbuster.
That is
And I've
wild.
never even driven one, so I am
Wow.
well out of touch here. But it does always interest me, and I'm always on the fence with it. And Mark got one a couple of years back, and I remember him doing a build, and he showed it on the bench against a lunchbox, and the size differential on the Clodbuster compared to a lunchbox, which I think is quite a big RC, is just phenomenal. So the first thing is I go, well, where do I put it when I'm not driving it around? I know it's not an X Max or anything like that, but it's a big unit, the Clodbuster.
Yeah, 6-inch tires. Yeah,
It
it's big.
so it commands space in the workshop, right?
It sure does.
But when I see those driving around, I always want. I think I just got to have a go. I got to get one to have a go because they just look so much fun. And if they emulate even a tiny little bit of the fun that you get with a lunchbox on a bigger scale with a Clodbuster, it's going to be a heck of fun. Now, just remind me, they have two motors in, don't they?
They do. Yeah, they've got identical gearboxes, front and rear, and yeah, same motor. And yeah, it just comes with like a stock Mabuchi 540, and each gearbox has its own motor. You know, and they're just ridiculously fun to drive because you've got so much power and you've got the big wheels. Um, I go back to my childhood when my first hobby grade RC car was a Midnight Pumpkin, and my best friend, his first hobby grade RC car was a Clodbuster. And like you said, like you don't really fathom the size of it until you see it. And I thought my Midnight Pumpkin was pretty boss until I saw the Clodbuster beside it. And now it's like, my pumpkin's just a little toy. The Clodbuster is it's a beast, and you can hear the tires. You know what I mean? They've got so much size that as it's just driving around, you can hear the tire connecting with the pavement, and it's just got it's a force, you know. The Clodbuster is just a beast, and they're just ridiculously cool. Yeah, you got to drive one sometime, buddy. I think you'd really enjoy it.
It's always on the list, but there's always something that gets in front of it. You see, and one day I'm sure there'll be that sort of there'll be nothing else that I want, and I know it'll be there for me to pick it up because it always seems to be about. I don't recall there being a period of time when there hasn't been a Clodbuster available in recent times, certainly. And I just think it's one of those Tamiyas that will always be around. It's not going anywhere, you know.
I think so. Yeah, they've got a few variants of it now too, right? They've got the gray edition, which came out I think a couple years ago.
That was a
Um,
North American only release. We didn't get that over here. That was
is that right?
that was North America only. Yeah, which really
Wow.
disappointed me because I thought that was probably the one that if that had been over here, that's the one I'd have got because it looked great.
The colors that they chose were really, really nice. The body was molded in this kind of this almost like a primer gray, and the shocks, yeah, in that blue, kind of this really nice kind of like cobalty sort of a blue with the bumpers and the shocks. And man, I think it looked incredible. I was actually fortunate enough to build one on my YouTube channel. The owners of Eliminator RC, another great Canadian RC shop, who work with the channel quite a bit. The owner sent his personal Clodbuster to the channel to be built on the channel, and I think that was probably the fourth Clodbuster that I built. So I kind of built it on the channel, and then did like a running video with it, and kind of paid homage to the old school Clodbuster Tamiya promotional video with that.
Yes.
But you know, each one just, even if it's just a slight difference in color, it's just got a different personality with that different color scheme. And yeah, they're all just so much fun. You can never not smile when you're driving a Clodbuster. They're the best.
And you talked about the mods a minute ago, and there's I found a website in the UK. I think it's called UK Monsters, and they do custom chassis for the Clodbuster, and they also do custom chassis now for the CW01 as well. But I've always been interested in getting the Clod and then modifying it and just doing something fun with it afterwards. It looks like a real project car. You know, you buy it, you add to it, you build on it, you customize it, you make it yours. It looks like one of those to me.
It absolutely is. Yeah. Yeah, you mentioned UK Monsters. Here in North America, there's a company, CPE, Crawford Performance Engineering. They are the like go-to Clodbuster guys out here. And yeah, with my mod Clod, I built that one up, I think 2012 or so, 2013 ish. And I'll tell you, you can go down the rabbit hole and spend some money. I think I'm about $1,300 into that one.
Nice.
And that's 10 years ago, $1,300, which is probably closer to $2,000 in today's funds. And and that was with gifted wheels, wheels and tires. But you know, you can get these really nice chassis, and I went with a lot of carbon fiber on mine as well. I've got the carbon fiber four links. They're a little bit longer than a standard four link would be on a Clod, so it's got a longer wheelbase, so it's much more planted. Really nice G-made shocks I put on there, and
There's eight
and
shocks, isn't there, Phil? Eight shocks on a Clod.
yeah, stock format's eight shocks. Yeah, a lot of guys when they go race, when they convert it to like a race spec, go down to four shocks, or you know, one shock per corner kind of a thing.
Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, but yeah, if you stick with stock, yeah, it's eight shocks, and they're not oil filled. They're just a friction damper. So, you know, you can just imagine, you know, you're using tires and springs to absorb all your bumps, right? So and then with a four-wheel steering mechanism, again in stock format, you've got a lay down steering servo sitting in the center of the bottom of the bathtub chassis, and it's just not the most efficient steering setup.
Right.
There's a lot of slop in it, and so you know, you got these four-wheel steering thing doing, you know, the wheels are going this way and one's turning left, the other's turning right, just all sorts of wacky things happening at all times. So it's just a really fun driving experience.
You've definitely got me interested. Every time I talk to someone about it, it moves up the buy list, and then it gradually falls back down as different things jump in ahead of it. At some point, I will own one. And seeing as you've made it a hero Tamiya for the month, yeah, at some point I've got to bring it into the collection. It has to be done.
Yeah, you really have to drive one at some point, and you know, and again, it can be box stock and slow and clumsy, and it's going to be super fun. Or you go crazy and modify the heck out of it, it'll be super fun. There's no not fun with a Clodbuster. You're always going to have fun with a Clodbuster.
And that's what it's all about ultimately, isn't it? It's those cars that provide the smiles and the grins. That's the important part of the hobby.
Well, you just can't stop making Claude content too. As a YouTuber, you know it. Like there's certain vehicles you can make a video of today, do it in 6 months, do it in 6 more months. 20 other YouTubers can be making videos constantly of that same vehicle, and it's always going to get views. Clodbuster is one of those vehicles. People always want to watch Clodbuster content. They love them.
It's because it's so iconic.
Yeah, 100%. They look great on camera. You know, that nice old Chevy square body. I mean, and that's if we're still looking at stock. I mean, there's so many different body types people have put on there. Cool, crazy monster truck bodies, car bodies, everything else in between, right?
Is it a hard shell?
Yes, it is. Yep.
You see, I've been getting into my hard shell bodies recently. I did the paint job on the Grasshopper, and there's something satisfying about priming a hard body and then layering it up and then rubbing and sanding it down and doing another layer and watching it all sort of fill in the gaps and get nice and smooth. There's something so deeply satisfying about that. I found myself looking for more hard shell bodies for me to do. I've got the Blitzer Beetle to do, and I've got the Lancia 037 on the TA02 rally chassis to do. But I found myself wanting other hard bodies. So if the Clodbuster's a hard body, it gets that bumps up the list a bit more, Phil. You see, because I'm enjoying that part of the hobby at the minute.
Oh, that's good. That's good. Just know that with the Claude, it does spend a lot of time on the body because it is not, the suspension is not the best. It bounces a lot. It does this thing when you jump, sometimes the front end just kind of like, it likes to do almost like the equivalent of like a shoulder roll. Picture a human kind of jumping like a parkour guy, jumping through the air as he's running, kind of diving forward and doing like a front shoulder roll. The Clodbuster does that. Something about the way maybe the wheelbase is a little too short. I think in every one of my Clodbuster videos, you'll see it do a front roll. It's a Clodbuster thing. And, so if you're going to put a lot of time and effort and money into painting your body and making it really nice, maybe put that one aside for showcasing and get another body because it's going to get beat up if you use it as a runner.
It's all right. I'm one of those fools in the hobby that takes my time making it all beautiful and then drives it into a curb or smashes it into the side of the garage or,
Beautiful.
it is what it is,
Yep. Oh yeah, been there.
Very good. So we add the Clodbuster to our hero Tamiya's, and I will have a look through my collection and decide what we're going to go for next week.
Nice.
So I'm going to jump around a little bit on the show notes here, Phil. I'm going to jump down to other RC news because, well, to be honest, there hasn't really been a great deal. And the only thing that I could come up with, or we could come up with when we were chatting a minute ago, was that the Coyote Show Toms is hitting the stores around now, around the world. And that's probably the big news. That's a lot of people are going to be dipping in for that one. I thought it was quite reasonably priced, actually. When I saw the price of that, it was about the same price that the mid was. You could pick a mid up for. So there's some extra bits and pieces in that kit, which makes it quite a compelling purchase, I think, for people who are in the market for one.
Yeah, I agree, and I think a lot of people are excited about the Toms. It's absolutely beautiful. I've got what is the Optimum Mid? I've got one sitting here in my collection already, so I don't know if I'm going to get a Toms because, they're not inexpensive. I think what are they, $479 US, which is, what's that, about $600 Canadian, maybe a little bit more. So you get what you pay for. I mean, they're absolutely stunning. 4-wheel drive. Their build quality is amazing. In fact, I think it's the same price as the associated Brian Kinwalds that are out. So
is that right?
Yeah, I was looking on A-Main site the other day, just trying to do a price comparison because I certain A-Main had them in stock, the Toms, and they were the same price point as the Kinwalds, which I find to be really interesting because an associated Kinwald, you're talking a 2-wheel drive. Tom's is 4-wheel drives. There's just a lot more to it, right? More components, 2 gearboxes. So if you look at it that way, it's actually priced quite competitively. When comparing it to a 2-wheel drive RC10. But
Yeah, I
either
think
way, both are great vehicles. But
over here they're about £420, which is about the same price as a mid can be picked up for. So it's a good price. I thought it was priced quite competitively. I was expecting it to be more expensive than what it came out at.
Yeah. Yeah.
which is good news for those people in the market for it, that's for certain. But that was about it from other RC news. I mean, there wasn't a lot else. There was a couple of bits and pieces flying around, but there wasn't anything that was worthy of us mentioning. And again, I think it's just a sign that everybody's now waiting for, you know, waiting for the fall. They're waiting for their auto releases, and we'll see a lot more models coming, I would imagine, in the coming weeks and months announced for later in the year.
I hope so. I mean, a couple of years ago, let's not forget when it was late, what was it, 2023, 24, 23, when Tamiya out of nowhere dropped the BBX and the squash fan. like,
Yes.
like where did those come from? And they are two absolute home runs. So both Tamiya and Kyosho started 2025 off pretty quiet when it comes to, exciting new releases. So I think we all want something. We all want something new and exciting. It keeps us on our toes as hobbyists and enthusiasts. So I'm really curious to see if they're kind of playing their cards close to their chest and drop some big bombs on us at the end of the year.
Do you know what? I'm thinking out loud here. Hearing you say that, I wonder whether it was because they got wind of all the RC10 releases that were coming. Because Team Associated stacked those RC10s. They were back to back to back to back. They
That's
just
right.
they were relentless. And if
Yeah.
you were a competitor, you'd be looking at that window and going, well, there's no point in me putting out a big hitter during that period of time because I'm going to be fighting for the same pocket, the same money that everyone else is fighting for.
Yeah.
You need to have that window, that space to release your product, knowing that people are going to put their hand in their pocket and pick it up. Especially Kyosho when they're hitting around the same price point. They need some clear air around the releases to make sure that they can get their market, get the product to market and get a decent run at it. Tamiya, I think, is slightly different because they have their models typically are a little bit cheaper. So I don't think they're probably looking in the same way. But if Tamiya is going to release a 300, £400 kit, they are going to fall in that same bucket. They're going to be competing for the price point of an RC10 or of a Kyosho Legendary, and there's not enough room in the market for 4 or 5 releases at that price point all at the same time. It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I agree. And when you can get a legendary Kyosho or like an RC10, variant that is really more of a race spec versus, a higher cost Tamiya, even like, let's say, for example, you were talking earlier about the XM01, which, isn't really a race spec chassis. I guess it could be, you could argue it, but it's got a higher end price point, doesn't it? I think
Yeah,
they're about 450 Canadian or something like that. So, and that came without a body, right? And I think that was just
that's right.
basically, yeah. So, but by the time you've built up a Tamiya XM01, and get it fully running, you're kind of getting into that RC10 price point. You're getting into that legendary Kyosho price point. So, as a buyer, where are you going to spend your money? I mean, I'd rather go for a Tom's than an XM01 every day of the week. so,
Uh, I,
uh,
I,
so maybe you're onto something there, buddy.
it depends on what you're looking for, but I do think if you're sat there and you're going, right, okay, I've got £500 to drop here on an RC kit, and you're looking at, well, I've got a choice of 7 different things, everyone's doing the same. Whereas if you've got your £500 and there's only 2 cars in the market at that point, you're picking one or two. There's a lot more money going towards those two people who've got the kits out than if there's 7. And
Mm-hmm.
that's why I think it's been quiet for Kyosho. I think that's why it's been quiet for Tamiya haven't been quiet, but they haven't released any big hitting kits. I was really expecting a Dynastorm to come, and it hasn't. And I believe they're holding that off, and they're waiting for clear space.
Oh boy, I can't wait. I almost pulled the trigger on the used one that I found here, but I didn't. It was just, the price so high and it was a little bit beat up. And
Yeah,
I'm not, I don't love restoring old cars. I'm very happy just buying a brand new Riri. I don't care if the Riri is a little different than the original. That kind of thing doesn't bother me at all. So, and then, hunting down old parts, vintage parts, and going on eBay. Of course, living in Canada, everything, all the parts tend to be in the US or overseas. So by the time you ship it and pay the currency conversions, it's like, the what you put into some of these to restore one can be pretty scary, So
it absolutely is. I found a Dynastorm a couple of weeks back. That was in pretty bad condition, and I was tempted, and I went through the same debate that you just went through, and I'm glad I didn't. 'Cause I reflected now. I don't know if I told you, Phil. I was recording the Orchard Raceway series, and we had to press pause on the Orchard Raceway because I had to stop and have a rethink on this year's format. I've smashed up three cars already on the Orchard this summer,
Oh
and
boy.
two of those have been vintage rebuilds that I've done through buying parts and restoring them. One of them was sent over to me by Paul Coughlin. It was a Falcon. And that one of the parts, it just, I mean, it's old plastic, so it happens, right? You hit the piping, and something can break really easily. But he
Yeah.
sent me a whole bunch of 3D printed plastic parts that hopefully will keep that thing running year on year on year. But the other one I smashed up was my Madcap, and I spent weeks restoring that Madcap, collecting all
Yeah.
the parts, finding them, hunting them down, chatting to people on forums, and just to break that in the way that I've like sheared the entire side off of it because I hit a grass roller that was in the on by the side of the track, and I went off, took a corner too wide, and slammed into this giant big, non-movable object, and sheared the entire side of the car off. And I've broken all the arms, the all the bulkheads all snapped. The whole thing's just a mess. And I'm looking at it going, it's going to take me months to find all the parts to rebuild this car.
Yeah.
And then, do I run it again or do I not run it? What do I do next time? And that's why when I look at these sort of restores, I'm kind of pushing away from them and going, I don't think I can do that to myself again. I just don't think I can go through the heartache.
Yeah. I hear you, buddy. Any RC car that I've restored, I I don't even know if I drive them around much. I'll drive it once or twice maybe just to get a running video. And then I've got that moment captured forever. It's up on YouTube and I can watch it whenever I want, and viewers can watch it whenever they want, and we can see that car doing its thing. But that's it. It'll get driven once and then it gets cleaned up, lubricated, tires shine, the whole 9 yards, and then it gets put back on the shelf just to kind of, use as a discussion piece. Because like I said, man, once you break them, and then you've got to buy that rare bumper, and it's $100 for
Yeah.
what should be a $10 part. I don't know. You maybe to change the name to Cheap Boys RC or something, because I'm too cheap for that stuff, man. I am way too cheap. I can't stomach overpaying for things.
When I started the channel and I started doing the hobby, I didn't reflect on the maintenance and upkeep of cars that I'm going to run every season. And that's why I've pressed the big sort of pause this year in the content. I'm still going to do it. I'm not doing the Orchard Raceway this year, but I've pressed pause to go, actually, this isn't going to be sustainable. If I'm going to go out with the fleet of cars and trash three of them every season, I'm not going to be able to sustain the content into the future because it's just going to become too expensive. So I
Yeah.
need to become more selective each year. And I will run everything. Everything will get its time out in the sun. But maybe I run the cars every 2 years rather than every year because it gives me that downtime to repair. I broke the Raider last year. The Raider's in the sort of the hospital wing as well at the minute because something went wrong with the diff, and I'm just not had time to get it all opened up and repair it. So I've got four cars in the hospital wing at the minute that all need repairs. Well, to me that's like a whole 2 months worth of work, just to get them all back up and running again. And then if
It
I want to
is.
run those cars because they've made it through to the next round, that's delaying me. That's work I've got to find time to do, and it's hard. I don't have that sort of luxury of sort of spending hours and hours and hours rebuilding these things. I have a small window of opportunity to build them, get them rebuilt, get them out on the track to film. So yeah, it's a bit of a shame really, but I am rethinking it, and there'll be more news on that to come. But we got other things to worry about between now and then.
Yeah, fair enough.
Which
And then,
brings me nicely on to our next topic.
what do you got?
Because what is filling my time at the moment is this little thing called a speedrun challenge.
Speedrun
And
challenge. What's that? Tell me more.
well, yeah, is it time? Yes, it is time. It is time for you to remind us all, Phil, about this wonderful event that happens every year. And I love it. I absolutely love it. But I'm going to let you introduce it, and then we can talk about it a little bit.
Well, thank you, sir. Yes, if you guys haven't heard, I'm sure you must have by now, but every year, Poor Boys RC hosts a speed run challenge, and the The goal of this event is to have fun. We take a not fast Tamiya chassis and we make it go fast. And everyone's welcome. So if you're listening to this and you're thinking, hey, this sounds like fun, I want to partake, how do I do it? And am I allowed to partake? Yes, this is open to everybody around the world. This is a global event. Last year we had 10 countries represented. I think we had 88 contestants or so. And this year we are expecting even more than that. So this year it's kind of really caught fire. And I don't know what the numbers are just yet, but I'm anticipating over 100 contestants and, probably 12, 15 countries worldwide, all playing in the sandbox. So it's just a fun event. And this year we're racing Tamiya Grasshoppers and Hornets, just Grasshoppers and Hornets. And I guess the Super Saint Dragon as well. We're not racing, Hornet Evos or Grasshopper 2s or anything like that. We've got 3 classes. We've got brushed, brushless, and open. In the brushed class, you're running brushed motors with, you can run a LiPo, a 2S LiPo, 7.4 volt, or you can run like a nickel metal hydride up to a 7-cell, 8.4 volt with a brushed motor. Brushless, you can go up to 3S max. You can use lithium high voltage or graphene, however it's pronounced, batteries. And of course, brushless motors. And then you've got the open class where you can run anything you want. Last year we had a guy using rocket engines. So, and while they didn't win with the rocket engines, they did win with a brushless motor. And so it really is open. So this is where you can really be creative. There are very few restrictions in the open class in terms of which parts you can use. It would include, 3D printed parts, whether you 3D print them and design them yourself or not. Parts that are made via, let's say, like an AutoCAD design type of a program, where if you're machining aluminum parts, you can do that kind of stuff. So this is the open class is where people really get creative with their designs, and doesn't always mean they're faster. And I think that's a bit of a misconception. People think that if you're in the open class, they must be ridiculously fast. And although we do have very fast people in the open class, I think I raised a stat last time. I think it was on the last podcast, or maybe it was one of my episodes on my channel, where I said that the first place guy, the winner in open, was faster than brushed and brushless. But the second and third place contestants in the open class weren't as fast as the top 3 in brushed and brushless. So basically saying, if you're a brushed and brushless type of person, you want to maybe try open, might be worth trying if you want to win a prize, because the chance of winning, if you already know how to go fast, go to open, make your car go a little bit faster than you normally would, chance of you winning a prize is going to increase. So that's a mouthful, but yeah, we do it basically from the start of June. We announced the chassis June 1st. So racers have the month of June to purchase the chassis if they don't already have it, and then start kind of working on their setup, wheel tire combinations, different motor setups, batteries, ESCs, all that sort of thing. There's a lot of great discussion happening in the Poor Boys RC Facebook group. I know Facebook is kind of a, not the newest, hippest social media platform out there, but for a lot of us old guys, it's what we use. And it's just a great resource to have. We've got a group chat set up on there, and a lot of the racers they're sharing their speeds. They're sharing their speed secrets. So it's not like everybody's playing their cards close to their chest. Don't get me wrong, some racers are, but a lot of racers are also very open. And hey, look, this is what I'm doing to make my car faster. I'm shimming this part. Here's what I'm doing to, get an extra tooth on my pinion, kind of an idea. So great discussions happening there. I strongly encourage you guys to check it out. And then when
does it all kick off? When do we get started?
Yeah, thank you. That's where I was hoping to go. The July 1st is the official start date of the event, and we're going to race until the end of July. July 31st Pacific Standard Time is the official end of the event. At midnight. July 31st at midnight would be the end of it. And so basically, you don't need to be a YouTuber to do this, but you do need a YouTube channel or access to a friend or family member's YouTube channel where you can upload your videos. You do have to take a video of your car doing its speed runs, and we've got rules videos on how to do this if you have any questions. And we go into more depth explaining all the rules, or the rules, if you will. And yeah, basically your first run that you do is going to be considered your benchmark run. So send me an email, poorboysrc78@gmail.com. Send me an email with a link to your first video so I can get you on the scoreboard. Every Sunday, I'm going to do an episode called Scoreboard Sunday, and you can guess what we're going to do. It's going to be a giant scoreboard, and we're going to post all the speeds of the racers of that week. So as you continue to do your speed runs, feel free to, of course, post them on YouTube. Only send me the emails if your speed has improved. So basically, if your benchmark speed run was 21 miles per hour, for example, your next 2 or 3, for whatever reason, are slower. You're 16, 17, 18 miles per hour. Don't send me those emails. I'd love to watch your guys' runs, but at this point, there are just so many contestants. I can't watch all of these. It's literally like a 10-hour-a-day job just sitting around watching speed runs, and I just don't have that kind of time. So only send me the runs that are better than your last time, so I can get you, or better than your last speed, so I can get your new improved speed updated on the scoreboard in real time. And then, yeah, every Sunday we're going to update the scoreboard. We'll do a video, kind of go over the standings, show where everybody's at. We'll do that 4 times. Then at the end of the month, that's it. We announce our winners. Winners get prizes, bragging rights, all the glory. And then we pack it up and wait for next year and do it all over again.
And I can't wait. Phil, I have 2 specific questions to ask you.
Mm-hmm.
Firstly, have you got a bigger scoreboard for Scoreboard Sunday this year?
Well, short answer is no, I haven't got one yet, but I'm going to get one because remember last year? Last year it was pretty crowded on there.
Yes, there's been an on joke in some of the chats that it's a bit like Jaws in the boat. You're going to need a bigger scoreboard.
Yeah, that's right. It's a good analogy.
And the second question I have to ask you is the poker going to be returning for this year, for 2025?
Oh man, I don't know if I should say it or not.
Oh, okay. Keep it under your hat. Keep it under your hat. But I know the poker was a huge hit last year. Lots of people were loving that, and every time that I watched your Schoolboy Sunday, I was humming that tune for the entire of my Sunday.
Well, yeah, you know what? I'll say it. Yes, we are going to bring back the Scoreboard Sunday polka because it's so ridiculous, and I think it's just fun. It's just fun, and it's silly, and it just kind of encompasses the feeling of the event, the personality of the event. And it's just to be having fun doing this thing that we all love to do is drive these cars. So
absolutely. We love it. Absolutely love it. You heard it here first. Polka is back, baby. I can't wait. So what are you running, Mr. Poor Boy RC? What are you running?
Well, I think I'm still going to stick in the brushed class. I haven't had time to get my car dialed in. My car is built. My buggy's built. I just finished painting the body this week. I was away on vacation last week, so I was kind of stalled out. So right now I've got it built up where I've got a brushed motor. It's an 8-turn motor. I'm going to run on 2S. I've got some 2S batteries coming in from CNHL. My body's all painted up. I've got these big tires, though, on the back. I put the big CW01 slicks on the back. And while I think they look really, really cool, I don't think they're going to work. So I think it's such a tall tire that it really creates it makes the Hornet really want to wheelie quite significantly to, where you give it some power, like an 8-turn brushed, it likes to just wheelie straight up and over and kind of try to do backflips.
So you're going with a Hornet.
Yes. Oh, yes. Yeah. Sorry. Yeah. I'm going Hornet. Yeah.
Okay. And you got an 8-turn brushed motor.
8-turn brushed, but I got it on Amazon. I don't know if it's any good. You know what I mean?
Oh, okay. Okay. There's an asterisk that goes with that 8-turn then.
Yeah, it's just like a no-name, whatever, electric motor.
But sometimes those are the ones that do the business. Sometimes,
Yeah, it could be, right? Last year I bought something similar and it was a real dud. So we will see.
Yeah, but I bought some retro motors last year that turned out to be duds as well. So you just never know. You never know.
That's
So
it. You never know.
I'm rocking a grasshopper. I think most people who listen to the podcast will have seen it on the YouTube channel. So we've gone with this gold speed hopper that was designed by my darling daughter. She helped me. We sat with Chat GPT one night and we plugged in a couple of ideas and it spit out a couple of images, and that was the inspiration for what we ended up with. And then I put all these big purple dots all over it, and she came down at breakfast and she was, Daddy, it's no good, it looks rubbish. And then she stuck all these gems all over it, so we've got all these gemstones all over it. It looks, I don't know if it's going to go any faster, but we'll see. Everyone keeps giving me a little ribbon because they said that the gemstones make it go faster, but we'll see. But I've also gone with those giant CW01 tyres at the back, and I haven't got slicks, mine have got the tread on them. And I'll tell you why mine have got tread on them, Phil. And that is because I'm going to run my speed runs off road. I'm not running on tarmac, I'm going to run on grass.
Oh, wow.
And there's two reasons for that. One, I can find bigger spaces to run the speed run on grass than I can tarmac in the UK. It's just harder for me to find a long strip of tarmac in this part of the UK. And I can find plenty of big open fields. And secondly, if I flip it or if I crash it, I'm in a big open field. There's nothing for me to crash into. There's just, you can barrel roll a couple of times, but that'll be the worst that'll happen to it. Whereas if I'm racing on a road, there's curbs, there's trees, there's lampposts. As I found out in the TTO2 speed run, lampposts are very unforgiving at speed. So
Yeah,
I'm going to trash the chassis. And I don't know if you remember, Mrs. OAG and Mini OAG are going to drive the car this year. I'm not going to drive it. They're going to do the speed runs.
Oh, really? Oh,
So we're
I
making
missed
it a
that somehow.
family event. It's a family event.
Wow,
Yeah.
interesting.
Trying to get everyone in on the RC fun, you see.
Everybody's going to be in the whole OAG family.
That's right. And then if I crash it, if they crash it this year, see, I can't take the blame for any accidents that happen. It's someone else's fault. I just get to rebuild it.
It's funny that you say that you're going to run yours off road, because I had a few other people, I won't say who, but I had a few other racers say, do we have to run on road this year? And I thought, well, I guess not. No, you can run wherever the heck you want. I mean, obviously a flat, smooth surface is going to be beneficial to speed running.
Yeah.
But again, these are grasshoppers and hornets, and if you have limited space and you have a nice, an area that's, relatively flat and smooth and grassy, or even gravel or something, it might actually work in your favor.
Well, we will see once the runs start. But my theory is it's far easier for me to find that big space in the UK off road. And I know you did the CW01, but I missed out on that one, the first ever Poor Boy Speedrun Challenge. I missed that one. But the last two have both been road cars, so it's been very difficult to take those off road. You just wouldn't have got any advantage. But the extra height you get on the buggy here can play to the advantage. So we're going to do some off road speed running.
Interesting.
So
Very interesting.
I see a subclass coming up already where people who are going to be going off road will be looking at each other's off road attempts, going, actually, I'm going to try and be the best of the off road guys, not the on road guys. You can see a subdivision coming on Scoreboard Sunday.
Yeah. Oh, that'll be cool. That'll be neat to see. That's one of the really cool parts about the scoreboard, is when you start to see the little subclasses start to form, whether it's, and it tends to be people that are, like in the UK, like you guys always have a really mean kind of group of guys that are bunched together in the brushed category, that are, half a mile off of one another's top speed. So it really creates these fun little kind of sub battles within the class battles, it's really neat to see that happen.
Has there been any early trends that you've spotted so far, Phil?
I would say an early trend that I've spotted this year is actually more people entering the open class, not being afraid of it, and starting to build some really wild rigs. And that one's got me really excited because a couple reasons. One, open class tends to have the fewest racers. So we want to promote that. We want to see some people doing that and kind of getting out there and stretching their creative legs and finding new ways to make these buggies go fast. Second of all is I'm not the kind of person that would race in open. Like my brain doesn't really work that way. I don't have the creative ability to kind of figure out how to build my car, make it work. It would just be some kind of Frankenstein-y monstrosity by the time I was done with it, So to see guys that have a keen understanding of aerodynamics and just how to make these cars go fast, and taking this 40-year-old platform and adding, different parts to it to make it go fast and make it work. It's so interesting.
Mm.
So seeing more, an early trend that I'm spotting is more guys getting into that class, and really just like, we've got some wild designs that are in that class already. So it's really cool to see that. And that's what I think is going to be very interesting this year, to see what happens to that open class.
And I think if you want to gear this one up, I think you don't have a lot of choice but to go open if you really want to get the gears working in there.
That's just it. There are quite the limitations when it comes to the gearbox on this one.
So I think people are gonna lean slightly more into that open. I've seen early trends for me is obviously the big tires at the back has been an early trend. I've seen that quite a lot. People are going with the big tires at the back and the small tires at the front.
Yeah.
And then quite a few guys have been out and bought the adjustable motor mount that's available to squeeze some extra pinion sizes in. But I've heard that the biggest pinion that you can get into the standard gearbox is a 22th pinion. And even then, that is a real squeeze getting that in there. It's really tight.
I've heard these things as well. Yeah. So people are going to start to get creative, because in the brushed and brushless classes, you can't modify your gearbox
No.
to accept more teeth on a pinion. But you can in the open class. So, it opens up some doors. I think early on, a lot of people thought, since basically you could buy a Hornet Evo and use Hornet Evo parts on your Hornet, like the rear gearbox, I thought a lot of people thought there'd be an instant benefit to the Evo gearbox. But my opinion was that the Evo gearbox would be would cause more limitations than the standard solid axle would on the stock Hornet or Grasshopper. I actually dedicated a video just to prove my point, that the Evo gearbox would not be as fast as the standard solid axle of the Hornet and Grasshopper when geared appropriately. I think we're running the 18 tooth in the Hornet, and the Evo had the largest pinion that you could put in there, which I think was a 19. I think it's 17 and 19, right?
It was 19.
19, yeah. And we were a couple miles per hour faster with a with a Grasshopper than we were with the Hornet Evo.
Isn't that strange?
Using the same motor, same stock motor, exact same battery. So I think a lot of people thought there'd be a benefit to using that gearbox, the Evo gearbox, but now they're kind of thinking, well, maybe not. So really this year, I think this year is going to come down to, when we're talking about who's going to win and how, I think it's going to come down to having the perfect space to run, because you've got, speed's going to be one thing, but keeping this thing rubber side down and with a super light front end on it, and the fact that it's only rear wheel drive, we're not 4-wheel drive this year.
Yeah.
It's not going to be the fastest car. It's going to be the fastest car that can actually stay on the whatever surface it's running on for the longest amount of time
Without plenty of space to wind it up.
Yeah, that's right.
Very good. Have you set yourself a target?
No, I haven't yet, because I haven't even gone out to do any shakedown runs yet. And from what I've seen, these cars can get pretty squirrely after about 30 miles per hour. So, I don't want to jump out and say, yeah, I want to do 65 miles per hour. If I know at 40, it's like, oh my gosh, I'm not going to be able to hang on to this thing. So I'll have some times, some better ideas come July, but not yet.
So we as a family have set our target at 30 miles an hour. And I think
30?
it's a good target. I think it's achievable. I think we'll get there with the gearing that we've got and the motor selection that we've got. But I've got a super secret special motor that once we hit that 30, we'll just go hell for leather and just stick it in there and see what happens. Ooh. But I think we'll just gradually build the motors up till we get close to that 30, and then we're just going to go crazy at the end and just see what happens.
Nice.
Yeah, it should be good. I am very much looking forward to this. I think it's gonna dominate the YouTube airwaves for the next 4 weeks, and it's a good thing. It brings the community together. There's a huge amount of talk about it already in the Facebook group, so get yourself over there and get part of that movement there. Get chatting to other people, make some new acquaintances, make some new friends. And good luck to everybody on the 1st of July for just over 4 weeks of serious speed running, and I hope that there's some records broken and everyone does not shatter their gearboxes, which we've already seen a couple of people do.
We sure have, yeah. There's a shortage of spur gears, I think, out there right now. Whoops.
So there we go. Speedrun challenge kicking off in just over a week's time. Okay, right. Let's move to a discussion point for this month. We had another listener write into the channel. This is Richard Lowe. Richard, hello. How you doing? Hope you're good. He says, all right, guys, listen to the podcast getting down to Robin Hood Raceway on a 3-hour drive. He also says, feel free to do a 3-hour special in the future for him, for his journey. I don't know if we've got 3 hours in us, but we can give it a go for you, Richard. We'll see what we can do. You asked for a question, so here's mine. If you have to erase one Tamiya kit, gone forever, never existed, what would you pick? And before you go, Phil, this is a two-parter, so I will do the second part of the question after we've both said what our gone forever, never existed Tamiya kit would be. You can go first.
Okay. Well, Richard, amazing question, dude. Really good question. And a few kits jumped up in my mind, but the one that I ended up choosing, a race out of Tamiya history forever, would have to be the TD4 Avante.
Oh.
And if it was anything other than an Avante, I think it would have done better. I think it was I think they really dropped the ball in the release with that kit. And don't get me wrong, I love it. I love the buggy. I like the way it looks. I actually really enjoy the way it performs. It's kind of a pain getting batteries in and out, and working on it's a real pain. There's no room for an ESC. It's not the easiest chassis just to get your hands in there and get working on. But I really do love it. I love the inboard shocks in the front, what they did with the body. I love the little fenders on the tires. I think that's all so cool. But when you put the name Avante on something, Tamiya fans expect that Lexus finish, the fit and finish. We expect that Avante that came out in 88, whatever year it was, I think it was 88, that high level of fit and finish and uniqueness. And so when the TD4 Avante came out, no doubt it had a lot of uniqueness. They did a lot of really cool things with the design, but I think it was a big flop for a few reasons. One, I'd say right off the bat, cosmetically, using recycled wheels that have been on everything from like the cheapest of the cheap kits to higher end kits. I think that was a big swing and a miss. They could have done something, paid homage to the cam lock wheel that they did on the original Avante, did something just to make it special. It's an Avante. You know what I mean? It's not a DTO1. It's an Avante. It should be special. And then they dropped the ball by cheaping out on parts, and the plastic T-nut that stripped out for everybody, myself included. That was just, it took something that was highly anticipated. They spent a lot of time and money releasing it, and it was this completely new funky design, love it or hate it, and then it just didn't work out of the box. It was a big letdown.
I know what you're saying, and I get it. Absolutely get it. Now I've driven it and I've played around with it. It is not an easy RC to work with. It is not fun getting the battery in and out, especially when you're in a hurry to do so. If you were at the track, or like me, you're up the garden, you're trying to do it at the side of the track. It's just not easy. And trying to work on it, anything you want to do to it, if you want to take the motor out, it's a real pain. If you want to get to the diff, it's a real pain. You have to spatchcock the entire rear end of the car to get at it. I hear you. I absolutely hear you. That buggy could have been fantastic, and it ended up being a bit of a letdown. And do you know what, Phil? I think Tamiya are doing their best to erase it from Tamiya memory because I don't think we're going to see that chassis again.
I think you're right.
It's
It was.
unfortunate.
Oh, yeah, very unfortunate. I mean, it had the TD2, right? It has little cousin there, two wheel drive cousin, which also, used a name from an older classic Tamiya,
It did.
and
Yeah.
and it never really caught on either. It's just kind of just a swing and a miss, man. It was a big swing and a big miss, and if it just went away, I think everybody would be okay with that, and then the Avante could maybe have saved face a little bit. The Avante name could have saved face a little bit, and maybe potentially we would have got another Avante, something that was just a little more worthy of that special name.
So there you go. We've erased the TD4 from Tamiya history. I am also going to erase another four-wheel drive Tamiya buggy. I'm going to erase the TL01B, the Baja Champ. Gone from history. Don't want to ever see it again. I picked one of these up off of eBay. It was one of my restore projects. I lovingly restored it. I got the decals all mixed up and put the rear decal on it back to front. But that's not the reason that I'm burying it from Tamiya's history. The reason I want to bury it from Tamiya's history is I hated the way it drove. It was just boring. It was dull. It understeered. I couldn't get the car doing what I wanted to get it doing. It just had no soul to it. And I drive a lot of cars back to back when I'm doing the Orchard Raceway, Phil. I'll get them all out and I'll drive them all within probably a week or 2 week window. And the TL01B was the only one that I thought was completely unrememberable. I just cannot even recall driving it. It was just so boring, so vanilla. And I don't think it has a good place in the Tamiya lineup, which is probably why they've never revisited the TL01B or the TL01.
Well, that makes sense. I mean, I've never driven one, and so I don't have the same experience as you, but I've always wondered why you just don't see these coming back into circulation. I don't think I've ever really talked to anybody about them and had, good, bad, or, anything ugly or anything other type of experience kind of shared with me. So hearing your version of it, and I know what you're saying. Like if it just doesn't have a soul, it's got no personality, and just, yeah, that's too bad, because I really thought those trucks look really cool.
I
Um,
like my buggies to all feel different. I like them to all have their own unique personality in the way they handle. And that one just had nothing to it. It was just dull as dishwater.
Man, what
And
a
even
bummer.
even something like the Frog. The Frog is never going to set a speed challenge alight. But the way the Frog handles and drives is so unique and iconic. Compare that to a TL01B, it pales into insignificance, even though the TL01B was slightly more, slightly quicker maybe, or slightly easier to drive. It was just so boring. It was so dull. There was no favourable points taken from it at all.
Oh,
So
that's such
I
a
moved it
bummer.
on. It's gone. It had those same wheels that were on the TD4, and I just got rid of it because it just wasn't for me. So there you go. We've erased two Tamiya kits, gone from history forever.
Forever.
But the second part of Richard's question, Phil, is we then can also have one Tamiya kit that can never stop. It will forever be made until life ceases to exist. So I will go first this time. And my kit that will be there forever and ever and ever. Well, I was going to say the DNO one's a hack. That's just because I want one and I don't have one, but I think that won't be one for everybody. But the one that I would want to be around forever would be the Top Force Evo, because that is by far and away the best RC buggy that I have driven, bar
It
none.
is really nice to drive and nice to
And
build and nice to look
what
at.
what scares me with that one, Phil, is there's going to be a day where something's going to break on it, and I'm going to go to the Tamiya well, and I'm going to need a spare part, and I am worried that it won't be there because I've noticed that the Top Force Evo has been discontinued again. They are clearing stocks at the minute of that model
Oh
in the
boy.
UK. Yeah. So
Oh boy. Well, hopefully it's got some parts that it shares with other kits. I mean, if you're going to wreck anything, it's, you're going to wear out a ball diff on it maybe, but if you could replace that with a gear diff from another model, maybe that would work. I don't know. I don't know if it shares lower A arms with anybody else, but I don't know off the
what
top
I
of my
what I
head.
what I sort of take a bit of comfort in is when I got back into the hobby back in lockdown, everybody was talking about the Top Force Evo and building Top Forces and fake Top Force Evos, and there was a real move with people trying to recreate those buggies in the best way that they could do from the parts that were available to them at the time. And I think that the re-release of the Top Force Evo will have put a huge glut of spare parts out into the marketplace because people would have bought that model to replace a part on their buggy that they've wanted to get back working again, or whatever the case may be. So I think there'll be a lot more parts now in the system than there was 10 years ago.
Yeah, that's a good point. That makes sense.
But I do think that that should be in production for until the moment life ceases to exist. What
It's a
is what
good
is
pick.
yours? What is yours, Phil? What must be on the shelf forever and a day?
Well, it's kind of like it's like the personality wise, it's the opposite of you what you chose. You've got this like elegant, beautiful race machine that goes together with high end components. Myself, I like a clunky, bouncy nonsense machine like the CW01. I think that that thing
Yes.
needs to last forever until the big comet comes and hits us and wipes us out for another 100 millennia. I think we all need to have CW01s uh, worldwide. And if the world just, if everyone drove a CW01 at the same time, I'll tell you, bud, it'd be a different place that we live. Everyone would
I
just find joy in life again and all would be right in the world.
I agree with you, man. I hear you sort of saying about the big comet hitting, but I actually think there will be some TWO1 like chassis still around after the big comet hit. Because did you see the RC so and so guys jumping theirs off a rock a couple of weeks ago?
No, I didn't.
They drove it up a rock, and they just plummeted the lunchbox off the edge of this rock, and must have been like a 30-foot drop. And the thing was like bouncing off the floor and then driving away again. It was
What?
a thing of beauty. Oh yeah, yeah,
That's
absolutely.
wild.
They're the cockroach of RC cars.
That's right. They're so fun. They're just so fun. And I think for that reason, you can race them. Obviously, it's not a race rig in any way, shape, or form. But like, I mean, I remember when we started racing in the late 80s, I think, or early 90s, just an oval track on carpet. Our local hobby shop guy just kind of set up a little thing in, the Paris Fairgrounds back in Paris, Ontario, and we would just kind of zip around in a circle on a green carpet track. And I won the occasional race with my pumpkin. It was wheeling, and when it starts to wheelie on carpet, high traction starts to, the diff does weird things, so it kind of starts walking like, it does. It's very unpredictable. But listen, you can do a lot of different things with these trucks, and you're always going to have fun when you take it out. And they look cool, and the gearbox has that whine to it, and it's just the whole
Oh,
thing.
yes.
And they're just the best.
Yeah, I cannot disagree with you. That is a fantastic choice. So, Richard, I hope that answered your question, buddy. You've got your two Tamiyas to keep for existence, and you've got two that Phil and I never want to see ever again if we could choose to do so. If you enjoy listening to us talk about people's questions, feel free to write into the podcast. You can get hold of myself or Phil, and Phil's now going to ask me what the email address is, and off the top of my head, I can't remember it, so I'm just going to frantically look into my emails so I can find my email address. It is theoag180@gmail.com, or you can contact Phil at
Poor Boys RC78 at gmail.com.
there you go. Hit us up if you want to ask us some questions, and we too will read your name out on the airwaves and answer your question to the masses.
That is right.
So, we have hit the end of another podcast. Before we sign out, we always ask each other what is coming up on our channels in the next month. And I will start today, Phil, because it kind of rolls over from that discussion point. You were talking about the CW01 chassis. And what I'm hoping to do in July is go and run a CW01 chassis at a racetrack. And I also will be taking with me another buggy that will be running a 380 motor. And I've been following on Facebook for the last 2 months or so a group of people that meet up at a RC racetrack in the UK, and they run 380 motors only in the buggies, and they run a 540 silver can in the monster trucks and the comical buggies, and they race them. And it's similar. I don't know if you've ever seen it, Phil. It's similar to a race series in Japan where you do 3 laps. There's no transponders. There's none of that stuff. There's none of that shenanigans. It's 3 laps. If you roll over, there's no marshals. You're out. And then if someone knocks you back over, you can carry on racing again. But you're a zombie. You're not entitled to win the race, but you can still get some points for finishing. You have 3 heats. And then after the 3 heats, whoever's got the most points, they do a set of finals, an A, B, and a C final, and then you get a winner. It's aimed for getting people into the hobby without all the pressure of competitive racing, where you've got to have the ridiculous turn brushless motor with your race pack, and you've got to have a transponder and all these things. This is just aimed at a nice simple motor, a nice simple battery, no transponder, 3 laps, have some fun, and just get back into the hobby. And it's inspired me to go and have a go. So I am hoping during July that I will get out and go and do some RC racing with a bunch of like-minded individuals.
That is awesome. That sounds like a lot of fun. I was not aware of that style of racing. I didn't know that happens kind of in Japan or wherever else you guys do in the UK or wherever else. But that's cool, man. That sounds like a lot of fun. And comical chassis and CW01. So yeah, I'm just kind of envisioning this in my head. And just a lot of cars wheeling and rolling over and doing silly things. That sounds like a great time.
There looks like there's a huge amount of shenanigans that go on. Yeah,
Yeah.
absolutely. And I just want to go and race. I want to have a go at it, but I don't want to be put off by having to, get lipos and get brushless motors and get a race spec car. And I just want to go and run a Tamiya. And most of the cars they run, Phil, are DTO2s, DTO3s, grasshoppers, hornets, frogs. You can run a Fox, you can run a Wild One. So they have like a vintage class, and they have a more sort of modern DTO2, DTO3 class. And you can also race a Kyosho Scorpion, I think, as well.
Oh, wow. That's
Or the
awesome.
Beetle. But they've all got the common thing is they've got to have a 380 motor in. And the 380 motor they use is the 380 Sport Tuned. So actually, from a performance point of view, I think it is pretty close to a 540 Silver Can. But
Okay.
because it's so light, you get a bit more speed, a bit more punch out of it. So if they do look really fun, they zip around the track, that's for certain. So I can't wait to give that a bit of go. And of course, I'll be doing some speed runs as well.
Of course.
What's going on over at Poor Boys?
That's awesome. You got your hands full, buddy. I've got my hands full as well. I've got a lot of projects. I don't even know where to start, buddy. I'm kind of buried, to be honest. Obviously, we got the speed run challenge coming up. My goal is to get a few runs in that. I've got obligations with some partners here. I've got to do some reviews. I've got a beautiful radio here from Radio Link that I've been trying to get a review done on, but it's got so many features that it's like, I watch myself, my own video as I'm editing. I'm like, I don't know what I'm talking about. I gotta figure this thing out. Technology, I'll tell you, in this hobby has just gone nuts. And yeah, so I've got some really cool, exciting new products to review. I've got that Radio Link charge radio. I've got some new chargers that have come to the channel. I've got a CCO2 that I got for my wife, and she wants to build that up on a live stream with you guys, with the viewers here sometime soon. So maybe this coming Saturday, we might do it on a streaming Saturday. Got a helicopter here I got to get out and do a review on, but weather has not really been very compliant for that. And what else? I got my Relarlo speedrun car. Relarlo's got their own speedrun challenge happening. So I've got one of their cars, the AK 917. I'll get a few passes with it. Also got a new Relarlo, and I think I just saw the UPS guy drop it off, their new XTS P12, their 12-scale rally car.
Oh, nice. Yeah, looking forward to that.
I think that one just arrived just while we're filming or recording this podcast. So that'll be coming out early July. That's the official influencer release date for that. So stay tuned for that, guys. That is like essentially a little brother to the Relarlo XT, or what is it? FTX. Geez Louise, all these letters I got screwed up. The F10, the 10 scale rally car, which was, in my opinion, one of the highlights, if not the highlight car of 2024. It was so good. So now we've got a little 12 scale version of it, which I do not think will disappoint. I think it'll be amazing. So yeah, just more. I got just tons of stuff to get out and kind of show off on the channel. And yeah.
And then
Lots going
scoreboard
on, buddy.
Sundays to squeeze in there between all of that.
And then scoreboard Sundays on top of that, and then try to do live streams and try to build cars and have a life on top of all of everything else.
And watching over 100 guys do speed runs and send you in their fastest times over the next 4 weeks. You're going to be a busy chap. I do not know how you're going to have time to fit it all in.
I don't know either. I can't fit it in now. So
sleeping's so overrated. You know, it's so overrated.
That's right. Yeah, whoever said YouTubing would be easy. I remember when I started my channel, I'm like, I mean, this is 7-8 years ago, and I encourage people, do not watch my old stuff. It's so bad. Like, it's not watchable, but I leave it up there just because. Anyway, you know, I look at it and I remember thinking how easy it would be, and then it's not easy. You know, it's very time consuming, and editing is extremely time consuming, and it's fun. Don't get me wrong. I mean, I love every second of it, but to produce, you know, 2 or 3 decent videos a week is a lot of work.
Thing is, it's the old stuff that got people hooked in the first place, Phil. You know, yes, your new content is different and you found your style, but the old stuff is what hooked a lot of us in the first place, you know?
Yeah, you're right. Yeah, you can see it's like anything, you know, it's like any business or any product service, you know, when it's in its infancy, it's a fragment of what it becomes when it becomes a polished version of itself, right? So yeah, I wouldn't say I'm polished yet, but we're getting there.
We're getting there, you know. There's plenty of time, you know. We just keep polishing, and we'll get there in the end. Eh?
Yeah, that's right. And have fun doing it. I mean,
and that's the most important thing.
Yeah,
we've got to do it with a smile on our face. The minute it becomes a chore is the minute, you know, you want to stop it all. So you just have to keep smiling. Make sure you find the fun in the hobby. That's what I always say. Right, brother, we have done it. We've an hour and 50. I think this is our longest one. Hour and 16 minutes we've been chatting for. It doesn't feel like it. But hopefully our listeners have enjoyed it again. We haven't quite got Richard all the way to Robin Hood Raceway. I'm afraid he's probably getting to his first pit stop for a coffee at this point. So we'll have to try a little bit harder. But what Richard could do is he could go back and listen to the podcasts that he missed out on from the start and maybe give us another listen from the beginning again. You can find all of the podcasts on my YouTube channel, the OAGRC. You can also find them at all good podcasting listening places, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, etc. So please check out the previous versions if you haven't done. You can find Phil over at Poor Boys RC on YouTube. He's also got a website now, I believe, Phil.
We do indeed.
Yeah.
poorboysrc.ca. We went because we're Canadian. We're Canadian, eh? So I decided to keep it real and stick with the CA.
And you can also find Phil and I over on Patreon as well. If you feel like subscribing to our channels and giving us a couple of pounds, it's all, or a couple of bucks as it may be, it all helps to keep this content rolling for you all. So thank you very much for listening to another podcast from us. We'll be back again next month, probably talking about speedruns, I have no doubt. Trying to pick away what's coming in August from Tamiya, and we will have a little chat about what we've all been working on. Until then, I've been Craig, he's been Phil, and we will see you soon on Talks Tamiya. Thanks, Phil.
Thank you, sir.
Cheers, everyone. See you soon.
Bye, everybody.